Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope your week has started off with passion, purpose, and you're ready to finish the year strong. So it's kind of hard to believe that it's already November 1st, right? It's kind of November 4th, right? It's not November 1st. I think I've lost my mind a little bit today too. So look, finish your year strong. Remember the M&Ms of life, momentum and multiplier. Doing things consistently gives you momentum, which gives you confidence. Then you find the people, places, and things that are multipliers, and these are your M&Ms of life. Pretty simple, right? So one of the objections that I have seen coming up more and more as this roller coaster of rates comes is I want to wait for the rates to come down. Do you think that's a really good idea for people to do? I think this is where we all shake our head and say no. Right? Sharon? No. Right? Because here's the thing. If any of us knew how to time the market and interest rates, we wouldn't be doing this every day. We would be trading treasury bills. Right? You can't do that, right? So the first thing in identifying any objection is, can we treat the symptom or cure the cause? Well, the cause is a deep-rooted fear in A, I don't want to have a mortgage payment, which could be cheaper. B, I want to have extra money. C, I want to be smarter than I really am because none of us can time this stuff, right? So people get stuck. I always told people, like my friends and stuff that asked me about real estate advice, when the rates are like 7.5%, I'm like, this is the time you want to buy. They're like, would you buy right now? I'm like, this is exactly when I would buy, because the more the rates go down, the more competition there is, right? So the first part is you have to start to isolate the objection to something you could handle. I'm waiting for rates to come down is a large, ambiguous concept, but if you can't understand what's behind why they're saying that, there's not much of a conversation that can be effective to have. Does that make sense? So you can start off by saying, I completely understand what you're saying, and you want to wait for rates to come down because you feel that would be what's best for you and your family. They're going to say, yes, Christine, right? Like he heard me. So can you help me understand where your point of view is coming from and how specifically it benefits from you? Where's your point of view coming from and how specifically it benefits from you? Well, we have seen on the news, right? Because it's generally where they get their information, that rates are going to come down. We don't want to overpay for a house. We want the best interest rate and the best house, blah, 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 blah. Who here's had one of these conversations lately? Anybody? All right. So I'm going to call on Rob, and then I'm going to call on Sean. Go ahead, Rob.
I want to wait for rates to come down, Shirag. Is that cool?
Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly what they said. Sean, what did they say to you? You got to mute yourself.
They asked me if it's a good time to buy because interest rates are so high. They were thinking about waiting till next year.
Perfect. Right. So Rob's one was the feeling, yours was more tactical, right? Like I want professional advice, and is that cool, right?
Mhm.
So the first one, I'll go to Rob's, and I'll go to yours, right? So if I was answering Rob's question, I'm like, is it cool? Sure. Whatever you decide to do, I support you 100%. Can you help me understand your perspective and what specifically the benefit will be for you, right? And yours, I would say the same thing. Like, I support you 100%. Help me understand your perspective and what specifically the benefits are going to be for you, right? And then they're going to go into starting to explain it, right? Remember, I always say that you have to isolate the objection to one thing and then you could deal with it, right? It's like when you've identified that Compass is a different company than everyone else, you've isolated yourself to only working with Compass agents. So now the only thing you have to do is explain to them why you, why now, right? So if you're going into this, into Rob's example, he would give an answer. Rob, so provide an answer.
I'd say, I think that's you're hang on.
You be the
I
client. Be the
support you
client.
100%. I'm the client.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can be the client.
I'm the buyer. Yeah, what I've heard on the news is that rates are going to come down, so I just want to wait. and I think I'll get a better deal in the future. What do you think?
Got it. So you feel that waiting could potentially get you a better deal on your mortgage payment.
Right.
Got it. Right. All right. Now let me go to the next step about Sean. Sean, you be the buyer. We're going to go through this step by step in two different scenarios.
I think that if I wait, I'm gonna get a better apartment because they're gonna right now I with the how high the rates are, I can't afford an apartment that's perfect. And I think next year I'm gonna get one that's 100% perfect.
Got it. So what I hear you
A little
saying,
exaggeration, but you know what I mean.
okay, you could be anybody you want to be. That's if
Okay.
you're not, as I say, if you're not full of you know what, like this is. But here's the thing, just to sidestep for a second. As much as these things are exaggerated, I don't think people place enough values. This is what people actually deal with every day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they don't say this directly, but they're basically saying that. I think next year I'm gonna find something perfect.
Yeah, you're gonna say great. So you feel that when rates come down, you'll be able to afford more. Therefore, the ideal apartment for you will be available and you'll be able to afford it. Both
Yes.
scenarios, do you guys notice that this is all going in the same thing, right? So for Rob's, I would say, so now here's the isolation part. This is what they're saying is a feeling, and I need to isolate this into facts, right? And you're going to say, Rob, has anyone taken the time to share with you how your interest rate will affect the home you buy, how much you pay over the long term, as well as the opportunities in the market?
No, nobody's explained that to me. I just always thought that, the lower the rate, the more affordable it is, and I could get a better house for the same
Got
price.
it. So let me ask you a question. It depends what kind of market you want to buy in, right? And then I want to run an actual and call it a financial model. You'll sound really smart and sophisticated. I'd like to run a financial model with you, but do you remember when interest rates were 3.5%?
Yes, several years back.
Yep. How competitive was the market?
Well, when we were looking to buy then, but it was so competitive, everything was in multiple offers, so we didn't even get in the market.
Got it. So if it's safe to say that people that wait for rates to come down, the lower the rates, the more competitive the market.
Well, it certainly was back then, so I could assume it might be that way again.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. See, notice I agreed with him, right? 100% agree with you. So look, let's model this out, right? And we want to go through three distinct scenarios. We want to go, what happens if interest rates go up? Because as you can see, it's a roller coaster. What happens if interest rates go down? We're going to look at what buying today is, and then we're going to actually get into numbers, right? Because there's different strategies that you can have. You can wait for it to come down, and we'll walk you through that. You could buy today and what we know, and then you could buy today and figure out the balance of, if I'm buying today, how much extra would I pay over a 3 or 5 year period waiting for rates to come down where I could refinance? And what the overall impact is in the amount of money you pay for a home.
That would be great to see that.
Perfect. Now I'd go back to Sean, right? So Sean, you had shared that you felt that affordability would be unlocking a different price point if you waited for rates to come down, correct?
Yes.
And so when rates were 3.5%, what was the market like then?
I don't know. I was renting that.
So it would be helpful for you for us to share some of that data so you can understand the parallel between a higher rate interest market versus a lower rate interest market and see how competitive it was and overall what the impact of rate on the purchase price of a home is.
Yes.
So I would go back to the areas that they were looking at, right? Because what we're looking to do is isolate to him that, yeah, when rates come down, there's a lot more buyers, so a lot less option, a higher prices and everything else. So then I would say, Sean, let's go through this in two steps. One, let's look at the specific area you're looking in and compare what the competitiveness or non-competitiveness was in a lower interest rate market versus today. Then the second thing is I'd like to run a financial model so that you and your family have time to digest the data of, if rates go up, what happens? If rates go down, what happens? If we buy now with the certainty that we have, and we wait anywhere from 3 to 5 years in a broader picture for rates to come down, what the difference in actual cost is.
So
Was, go ahead.
Uh, I've already read a lot of the headlines, and I know that if I wait, the rates will come down, and then my budget will be, or my payment will be lower. So I think I already get it. I read a lot of articles about real estate. I'm kind of an expert.
Got it. And have you taken the time to actually look at the data and comparing markets for the specific area that you're looking in?
I've read articles, but I haven't done it myself.
So would it be helpful for us to go through that? Because look, ultimately, it's great to work with a person like you that has so much knowledge already and you've done your research. So let's apply some numbers to this situation. Then you apply your perspective and what you feel is best for you and your family. And whatever you do, I support you 100%.
That sounds good. I think
Now, if he
that
didn't
works.
want to do this, I wouldn't work with him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, not a chance in the world, right? Like, and this is where like illusion and reality come into play.
Yeah.
It, somebody's telling you that they read a bunch of articles and they've never looked at actual like empirical data and list price to sales price, days on market with the differences those, then run a financial model that actually factors in those costs so they can accept, like Rob did, that the market was more competitive. I wouldn't go anywhere with these people, right? The next question is you sound like you've done a lot of research, Sean, and that you feel very comfortable with your knowledge and waiting for the market. So what do you envision an agent doing for you that you feel you can't do on your own? And they're going to see what they say, right? And you're going to say, even if he didn't want the data, I'm like, look, Sean, like in my job, like we help people make decisions on facts, right? So let me share this to you, even if it's of no value to you today. I know it eventually will be. And when you're ready to look at it, make a decision. I'm here to support you, and I would move on. I would not bring him out to a single home. Nothing. Zero. Like, remember we talked about a good client and a bad client and putting it on the list? You could add to your bad client list somebody that's read a lot of articles, does not want to look at data, and does not want to do a financial model. Does this sound like something we can all do?
Yes.
Like, look, when we look at this, and this is something I'm in the process of doing, it's just like making your buyer checklist. I thought it was really easy, but it's a lot more complex than I actually thought because, look, we want to identify the core skills that every agent needs, right? So you could look at, I want to wait for rates could come down. I don't want to overpay for a home. I want a good deal. I want to be unrealistic about offer. Like all of these different things are skills, and you're never going to master these things. You're just doing them one time. Right. So like if you look at your business as a career, right, it is an ongoing thing. It's an infinite game. So your development and growth has to be strategized where you're like, okay, I cannot learn all this in a year. Like it's impossible. Right. But I'm going to learn this part, then I'm going to learn this part, I'm going to learn this part. And just like a buyer doing a financial model for 3 to 5 years, you do a skill model for 1, 3, and 5 years on how you continue to grow. But again, if you have a strategy and a plan on, okay, I'm going to put whatever's necessary to learn one skill a quarter, one skill a month, right? Because at least it'll take you a month to do this, right? You have to hear it in the session. You should do it in an accountability group. You should practice role playing for 5 hours. And then when you can spit the conversations out, like 90% based on memory, getting the outcome that you want and you feel comfortable with, then you've mastered the skill and you move on. The thing about real estate, it's like riding a bicycle, but it's a bicycle you get to ride every day, right? Like you actually get to use these every day. So the skills don't go outdated. The objections don't change. They really don't. They sometimes change based on the market and the market conditions, right? But they don't change in general. They've been the same. It's the same. It's the SOS, right? It's like I saw this thing the other day. It was called FAFO, right? F around and find out. That's what you need to do with all this stuff with people, right? Sean has to be a difficult buyer. Guess what? I'm going to try all my lines on Sean because he's just sitting there burning my time. So I might as well burn his time too and try to get him to understand. So now the next part of all this is shrug. How do I do a financial model that gives me all this information? Sound about right? Okay.
Yes.
Don't worry. Don't think I don't have something for you here. Hold on. Mortgage. Okay, now let's show you. You guys all see my screen? So we built this for you. Offer price, list price, down payment, mortgage amount, interest rate percent, and it calculates. You can even put in the property tax, the HOA, and the home insurance, right? So you can now model out scenarios. What if the rates go up by 0.5%? What if they come down by 1%, right? So down payment, let's say 200,000, right? Interest rate, what are the interest rates today? 6.5%, 6.75.
That's fine.
Oops. You notice this is amortized, right? Property taxes, Rob, let's just say $8,000.
Okay.
HOA is 0, and we'll put homeowners in as $100 a month, right? So the HOA monthly. Oops. I was like, why is that so high? Right. So this is an actual modeled out scenario. So it says on present rates, right? If you choose to buy today, you can effectively negotiate the price, compete against less buyers, and have a great choice. This is what it is. These are the total pay, the amounts paid. Now, if rates go up, right? The offer price would probably be, let's just say, we'll just put the same number in. Right? And now this will show you if you choose to wait and rates go up, you'll pay more money over the course of the loan. It's unlikely the seller will drop the price to what's necessary to match today's rates based on what buyers are willing to pay for homes. Do you see how this is all mapped out for you here? And then if rates go down, right? You're going to say if rates go down, the offer price actually might be higher. But look, if you wait for rates to go down, do you think there's a good chance the market will get flooded with buyers and you'll have more competition, less negotiation power, and ultimately limited to what you have to do? So if I put the offer price now here, that's based on the calculator, and there's a monthly payment difference, right? So there's a total saved here. Now here's a summary, right? If rates go up to 7.2, the seller would have to drop the price by $50,000, so your monthly payment would be the same as it is today. But if the seller does not agree to drop the price, you end up paying $80,000 more over 30 years. Wait, and rates go down 5 years, subject to future market conditions similar to the past 2 years, which means more competition, less options, and multiple offers. If you act now, you can negotiate the price, wait for rates to go down. Buying at today's rate would be an additional $11,000 over 2 years for you to wait to come down. Acting now in a market rate ensures a better sales price, protects you from future interest rate increases, and still gives you the opportunity to refinance at a better price. This is financial modeling, right? So if you look at this for rates to go down, essentially you're going to say, assuming that you can negotiate the same discount, which isn't really likely, the amount of money that you're saving taking this risk is $11,000. Now we have isolated this to a very specific amount. Now, if somebody wants to risk $11,000 and not negotiate a $50,000 discount or whatever it is, or less competition, is that somebody we really want to work with? Hit yes or no in the chat. Nope.
Chirag, it
Wow.
also doesn't take into account the cost of where they currently live and that they're building zero equity as well.
Yeah, that's true too, right?
That's what I was going to address as well. paying
And
rent.
income tax savings as well for state and federal taxes.
But here's the other part. The more of this that you add, the more complicated the decision gets for them. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't you want to show them building equity?
No, because here's the thing. If you look at an amortization chart, right? In the first few years, you don't make any equity. The majority of the payments are interest, right? Tax deductions, especially on higher priced properties, are capped out. $10,000 for practice, taxes, and everything else. Look, here's the whole point of isolation. I want to isolate this to one data point for you to make a decision. And this, for me, as an agent representing all of you, shows their ability to make a decision based on facts or feelings. If you saw this data, and before that, I presented to you how competitive the market is and how many buyers are waiting for rates to come down, it's a no-brainer, right? If I personally, Shrag Shah, with all my knowledge, was buying a house, I'd want to buy a house in an 8.5%, 9% interest rate because I knew it was temporary. But that temporary window would give me an opportunity to negotiate better, ask for more concessions. There's more opportunity there, right? So we will add this to the recording today. And from there, it'll be a make a copy version, right? So you can just make your own copy. And then what I suggest you do is each time you do it, I would make a copy of the here, actually, let me show you how to do this. Hold on. Oh, there it is. My Zoom toolbar. I would call this, right? Financial model lane. Actually, home buying financial model lane, right? So it looks like you made it just for them. And now they can go in here and put all the different numbers that they want possible. And if you think people aren't going to use this, you're crazy. Because guess what? Do you know what we realized in doing this? Nothing like this exists anywhere. Have you ever seen anything like this on any website? No. We actually, we thought about this and then we decided not to do it. Because we're like, well, maybe we just put this on our website, right? It's a great way to get agents to come to our website and look at some of the tools we have. But this is something that should be available to anybody, right? This is not a distinct competitive advantage. This is saving people countless hours of stress and burnout. Look, our job is to create things for you to use. I think that we've all spent enough time together for you to realize the only thing I really care about is that you guys use this stuff and that you're happy. Right? That's it. There's not ta-da, that's the big why, right? Because look, in the end of the day, we talked about this last week, the cost of a bad client. It's 20 to 30 hours, right? If you're making buying a home, which is part of an emotional decision of where you live and how you choose to live, but really it's a financial decision, right? There are actual metrics to this. Do you know how many people have been still waiting to buy a home? I don't want to compete in multiple offers. Now you're crying to get that 3.5% interest rate, paying $300,000 above asking, right? Sharon and then Rob.
So how do we share it with the client? I know you'll share it to us, but how do we get it so that they can use it?
All right. Let me just give me a second. Let me just show you guys how to do this. Please hold. Let me just pull the link here. Oops. Let me see something, 1 second. All right, perfect. It's a question mark. All right. You see my screen? You'll get a link that says like this. You're going to say, make a copy, right? Click make a copy. Voila, this all comes up, right? You can edit out the data fields so they're all blank, right? Or you can leave it in there so there's like a pre-modeled scenario in there. And then you'd hit file, make a copy, right? And then you change it to, you know, financial scenarios, whatever you want to label it. And then you just here, make a copy, and then you share it with your client. So I would make a copy of this. And I'd hit share. I could put sharon.davis@compass.com, right? And then I could just share it with you. Make sense? And that's it. And now you have everything. Now, how sophisticated does it sound to say, hey, I would like to support you and run a financial model that outlines each one of these different distinct scenarios? That is something people pay an advisor for, right? They don't pay you all this money, like, well, the rates are like this, and if they come down, the market's gonna, they can't process all this information. Remember the joke that I had? Like, it's that, are you the agent that's gonna sell my house in the fastest amount of time for the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle? You're the agent that wants to sell my home in the fastest amount of time for the least amount of money and the highest amount of commission. That's what they think, right? So being detached from this outcome and walking people through this is the best way to see for this type of client if this is good or bad, right? You could arguably bring this into all of your buyer consultations to make yourself look really smart. Because how many people have something like this? You do, right? Nobody else does. You know how many hours this took us to make when the rates came up like this? I had this crazy idea, and thank God I have Tiff on my team, who's like a spreadsheet wizard to make this, right? This is like, you need high level Excel skills, and you're pulling so many different data points and amortization tables. Like, it's a lot, right? Rob, you're muted. You're still muted.
I said, you answered my question on the right way to present this to your client and get it to them that Sharon asked. So we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, but this is what it's all about, right? Like, these are all different tools in your tool belt. Right. So depending on your market, like if you see this objection coming up a lot, like where you are and the group of people you deal with, I would proactively bring this up, because they're gonna be like, wow, he understands me. I didn't even have to tell him I was worried about this. He just knew. Right. Now, the other thing is, go ahead, Rob.
What do you think about bringing up the topic? Like if somebody's renting and they're paying $6,000 a month or $5,000 a month, and say, look, you need to consider this as well, because you're spending $60,000. Is that make up for the difference in your payment at this rate that we're able to negotiate down, or whatever the scenario?
I would say to him is, have you ever considered, right, the long-term financial impact of renting versus owning? And they're like, long-term, you're gonna say after 10 years, you spent $600,000, and then you're gonna go through it, right? And you're gonna say at the end of 10 years, like you'll have an asset, you'll have paid a third of it, you'll have 1/3 of the payments through. And have you ever considered how owning a home will impact your overall financial portfolio for retirement? No, I have not thought about that. Well, a lot of people own their home. A typical strategy is people downsize, they take their equity, they buy a place in cash, right? Like, have you thought about that? Right? So you can create your own statement that says, Here, like the 4 phases of financial growth, right? Like first thing is you get a job, then you rent an apartment, then you save for a down payment, then you own a home, you pay it off over the course of 30 years or less. You eventually sell your home, take the cash, downsize, have a place that's mortgage free, and enjoy your retirement, right? But like if you're not able to do that, then essentially you have a $60,000 cost of living forever. Right? Let alone the tax benefits. And so like I would get really clear with a CPA and find out that says, the average tax savings a year based on like a certain price point is this much, right? You get a formula you could plug into. But this is what being an advisor really is, right? All right, everybody, the recording will go up. We have at 11:30, which many of you asked for, how do I stay in touch with my sellers when they move far away or if they move locally? So we have a great training plan for you at 11:30. And at 11, I'm doing an Instagram live about the 3 most essential skills to grow your business. It's something that you guys all know, but I always find that these things from just different perspectives are really good to hear. And just realize this, you are so much further ahead of everybody else. And I don't think you truly realize that. Most people that I meet in real estate don't even understand how to pre-qualify people to understand what they want, what their needs, wants, goals, expectations, fears, doubts, concerns are. So the gap is going to get bigger and bigger. And the more you lean into this, the more commissions you'll command, like in any other field. All right, everybody. Love in my heart. Love you all. We will put this with recording and share your wins when you use it. Bye, everybody.